Um, um, Chaos. Let's talk about. These tend to be more free flowing, which I really like for myself and for the integrity of what I'm doing. Um, what is chaos to me? What is chaos for me in my life? It's it's the fuel for everything. It is the the all knowing, the all seeing disregard for knowing and seeing. Like, what I've come to find is a lot of people uh, have this living thing inside them where if it isn't seeing everything and if it isn't knowing everything, then there tends to be tension and restrictions and fear that kind of directs their life. And what I mean by the disregard for all seeing and the all knowing feeling is a lot of people think that there is a formation to knowing information, to seeing information, that there's um, a sort of downloaded formation, a physical formation, or a mental formation that many, if not all, people reside in. And this downloaded world of knowing and seeing this information, recognizing that as just a surface level of entry, um, you have an awareness outside that knowing, outside that seeing, outside the surface level of the knowing and seeing. So your attention is already outside of it once you recognize the the downloaded forms of culture and society, the downloaded forms of knowing and seeing. So what is that outside point? What is that? What is the what is outside that? How do I believe that to be chaos. I believe that to be just, the formation of natural occurrences. And our existence is chaos. There is no formation to it that is final. There is no knowing certain informations or informational fields that can save you in the end, save you from the inevitability of that nothing lasts, all flows. What I see is this contentment for our life, you know, this contentment with reasoning with our existence, where our existence has to be this soft, dull, mundane, thing trapped inside a box where if certain people or certain individuals or certain cultures or niches of society say certain words, become you become reactive, and your responses are more reactions to the cultural divide of the box I just kind of talked about. The box of mundane, dull contentment. A sort of soft view of the world where, like I said, any sort of outside point of view that says certain words to piss you off, to get you reactive, to get a response out of you. And if your box that you're trapped in is really small and filled with this nothing, no sort of search for a sense of yourself, then the search becomes identified with the reactions and responses of outside influences. Your identity becomes the response to things that make you uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable is not it's not a right or wrong thing. I think a lot of people think that the end goal is comfort and contentment. And to me, those things are like the last things to consider about life. A little synchronistic noise in the background. My cats agree. I think when you become aware of the box you're living in, how mundane it can be and is, you tend to try to always externalize this thing. That's usually the first step in awakening to whatever you want to call it. We could call it many things. Awakening to the truth of life, the natural life, awakening to these matrices of thought and perception, awakening to the the mystery, the thing that you're sitting with inside yourself and that surrounds you when you're in the content state, when you're in this state of just being comfortable. And uncomfortable people are usually the most, or I want to say comfortable people are usually fixated on comfort, but they're the meat and potatoes of what they talk about, of what they fill their dull life with, or their mundane life with, is this uncomfortable expression that they watch and consume and talk about. They talk about these people who are in uncomfortable situations, and I think uncomfortability is a real currency to the sort of system or culture we find ourselves in. I think there tends to be how to say, I think there tends to be a stagnation of awakening people right now. I think people are awakening. I was just like looking out over the collective belief, the world right now, and the collective notion I see in a lot of people. Because I think we're on the we're on we're just scratching the surface, just touching the surface of the awakening that I think is taking place. It's more of it's a big fear thing right now. It's a big fear thing, and the fear that I think a lot of us are feeling in this time is through these electronic mediums, these electric matrices, these electric um, the electric imagery, the global village, this thing that is beyond time and beyond space, and it never turns off. It doesn't go to sleep. Just always here for you to access. And the fear, I think that's kind of being directed or that's being expressed right now is through these people who have the the notion of what's going on, but are unwilling to talk about it in a very, or not even talk about it, unwilling to like look it directly in the eyes and face it head on. So it creates this feeling, this electric medium. It creates this feeling that you're really participating in something, that you're really, on the front lines of the revolution, you could say, the rebellion. And you have to understand that this revolution, this rebellion that kind of exists, is in everyone. Everyone has their own revolution. Everyone has their own rebellion. But these downloaded forms of culture that are dominating our lives, advertisements, social medias, news, 24/7 news cycles, these things that can be curated and turned on and off and can manipulate shapes and sounds and noises to meaning and can direct a physical environment just from existing on this electric world. It's it's affecting us in a way that's not being looked at. There's a few people I've heard talk about how electronics and these televisions will change us. A person named Marshall McLuhan said something about these being the global village, and a lot of these people that I like to listen to and I like to inform myself about never saw what these have become. And I'm sure there's a ton of people nowadays talking about this, but the problem is that the people on a local level, on your physical local level are not talking about it. Because let's say I only watch people who talk about the things I want to talk about. What's that gonna fucking do? You know? Like, you can inform yourself, but then there's the next step, right? And I think what's happening is that fear is enabling people, or I think enabling. No, not enabling. The fear. Oh, wait, maybe. Hold on. The fear is enabling people to just fall back in line. It's to fall back into comfortability, to contentment, because what's happening is everyone is coming to their own personal revolution, and a lot of people are not willing to, you know, willing, or they're not able to fit, like, mentally, to overcome these things, because humans are very complex. Humans and minds and thoughts, we've complexified ourselves into a situation that, due to the meaning we give things and have given things over our downloaded history, has led us here to this moment. And you when you begin to look at it like that, where, like, all the history you've learned in whatever way has led us here, and then you become more aware of the frontline aspect of, like, I'm here in this, in the now. When you awaken into the now, into the moment of, like, holy shit, here I am, let's do it, let's act. The fear gets created because you realize you have to do something. You realize you have to act. And in some way, shape, or form, you have to do something in life. And this contentment that we've been enslaved by has crippled revolutions, rebellions. And these rebellions and revolutions are sometimes completely individual to their cause. But that's the thing about revolutions and rebellions and these sort of, the Renaissance in ways, or these changings of times, the changing of tides, you could say, is that it can exist everywhere at all times in this very moment. That is the revolution. The revolution is literally awakening to the moment. And the decision after the moment to fall back into fear, or to start acting, or to start building something for your cause, that is the war. That's where the war is taking place right now. Because it's easy to just fall in line and go where other people are going, and to join the conversation that's already being had. And but to create new conversations, you have to create the new landscape for them. You have to build these areas for them. You have to claim the now and decorate the now with your cause. And the cause, excuse me, the cause, I think is very, because we could sit here and talk about, if everyone really awoke to the now, a lot of bad shit would probably happen. A lot of death, a lot of, war, destruction. But there's also the opposites of, happiness and joy and peace and excitement and creativity. I'm generalizing here, and that's something we have to awaken into, is this metaphorical, symbolic imagery that we can build with our realities. The problem is, everyone wants to be relieved from their responsibility. That is the freedom that I think a lot of people are seeking. That is the revolution I think a lot of people are seeking. It's freedom from responsibility. But responsibility is not the end all be all for our existence, because we only need certain things to survive as humans. But the responsibility aspect is almost like a duty for yourself and others. But I think due to, this world that is being suffocated onto us, and I mean suffocated, many of you will get ads during this, and then you will hit the home button and go through these mental matrices of videos and whatever, and you will have these access points where anything can be true. Now, real truth doesn't require your participation in keeping it alive. For this, for instance, the real truth I'm emitting is more of the presence of the now, because it's it's a live video. You'll see this when it's not live, but it's a live video where you can access the now. And these access points that are being weaponized, because access points are weapons. And what I mean by access points is access points of information, or beliefs or ideologies or faiths, where entering these access points costs you a certain level of individuality, where you fall into the crowd of a belief. And I can't say that's good or bad. I can't, because it's just what it is. The cats. I should probably get my day started. I really should. I gotta go to work. My stomach's kind of hurting, but I wanted to download myself and my beliefs into this digital library while I can. Because this information as an access point is being weaponized to complexify your existence. And if we complexify our existence into these mental matrices of meaning, instead of just using our expression, our creativity, to create worlds, these vast worlds of thought and art and anything that can be creative. When you access that sort of world, the complexification turns into this abundance of energy within yourself, instead of this complexification of meaning. where the meaning takes its own sort of route to being alive or to come alive, where information is now this play thing where we can interact with it. The access point is just a play thing where you can interact with, the matrix. I don't know this word, I'm just using words that have been created to describe existences, but I'm not a firm believer of language. I'm not. I know there's something else. There's other ways to live instead of these forced thought perceptions and thoughts. I'll show you a painting I made. I can't even see it properly. That's kind of good. This light sucks, but I painted that. I like painting. Anyway, if you don't like what I say, oh well, you'll click off. But if you do, thank you.